This podcast is recorded on Aboriginal land. We pay our respects to elders past and present and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded.
Welcome to the Online Radical Leftist Pipeline Podcast. I am your host, Tom Tanaki, and that's fucking it. That's all you're getting. For now, anyway. I am recording this ahead of time because I can't be here live with everyone. I've been moving house and consequently, owing to NBN, fun way of making internet unseasonably difficult to access for people living in rentals, I won't have the internet for a while. So my internet hotspotting is too poxy to join everyone. Blah, blah, blah. I really didn't want to miss this. You know, we're ahead of the federal election, obviously, on the coming weekend. Hopefully you've all voted already or are preparing for a shit show when you go along to vote on the weekend. I didn't want to miss this because of that and because of the matter of the dawn service and the National Socialist Network booing a welcome to country that took place at the event. I received a lot of questions from people, and I wanted to, people that follow me are aware that I tend to talk about these particular parasites, and I knew I wanted to lead into this discussion by talking to my beautiful fellow co-hosts about it. So, given that I can't be there live, I said to everyone else, please let me say my piece at the start. Let me say what I know, and then you can all have at it, because it does segue into a lot of issues concerning tactical racism in this election and its deployment by far-right groups, politicians, political parties, and I guess the notions of who really benefits or who really is to be credited for said tactical racism. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I told you I was moving. And owing to that, I was very offline on ANZAC Day. I was literally moving house on ANZAC Day instead of honouring the day. It's not really my cup of tea, personally. So I was very offline for that day. And that ties into this. Because what I thought by the end of that day is that I'm really fucking naive. Despite knowing everything I know and despite being as much of a pessimist as I am, I must be really fucking naive. Because in the morning of the dawn service, the booing incident, I heard about it. I was told not long after it had occurred that it was happening. I had knew people who were there. And I thought that this would be their biggest own goal for them to date. I have been waiting for them to do things like this. They've had increasing proximity to ANZAC Day events. They have been attending for many years and taking photos outside afterwards. More recently, they've been playing a more active role. They've been holding up their group's flag after the event. And accordingly, the RSL and Shrine Management as such have been being warned by people of their attendance on several occasions lately. So I was expecting their stunt work to start to increase concerning Anzac Day. But when I heard what would happen, I naively thought this would be their biggest own goal to date. More or less all I'd seen, to be fair, was this humiliating footage of NSN member Jacob Hersant whining and howling after ostensibly being fucking booted out by the crowd. I mean, this is what isn't evident in a lot of the footage. The crowd screamed and shouted at them, and they left. They threw a tantrum and they came back later for another pop, and that's where they had more success with their running with the media. But they did actually get walked out of there the first time and abused out of there by most people. And that's when you saw some footage of Jacob Hersant screaming about how we, and when he says we, he means all white men, are being humiliated by mentions of anything to do with Indigenous people at events like Anzac Day. So, having seen all that, that's why I was confident. I was confident that Australia would hear that the NSN had just booed a dawn service and that they would get shamed accordingly. By the end of my day, after having moved boxes for 12 hours, I got messages, because I should add that I had been communicating online with my followers. I was very excited at the outset of the day. As I said, I thought this was the biggest shame for the man yet and would be treated as such. By the end of the day, I was getting messages from people saying, "Oh, can you control your glee? This is actually something that's very hurtful for Indigenous people." It didn't take much looking around online to see exactly what people were talking about when they were saying that, because in fact, it appeared to me, the day went pretty fucking well for them. Right-wing lobby group Advance Australia launched a petition about welcomes to country that immediately took off. The NRL, it said, cancelled a welcome to country that was scheduled to take place the next day. The neo-Nazi identity of the hecklers was almost drowned out into irrelevance by a conversation about welcomes to country that would appear on the face of it to have been tabling exactly the agenda that they wanted tabled, and so on and so forth. So it seemed to me to be a very effective example of them doing precisely what they would, on the face of it, appear to be doing, which is attempting to shift the Overton window in a rightward, more white supremacist direction. When I talked with an Indigenous loved one of mine later on, they summed it up best with a characteristic turn of phrase born of knowing better for far too long and having had enough of it. They said, Australians find it easier to hate Aboriginal people than they do to hate Nazis. And I got to hand it to that loved one. This fucking hole of a joint does keep proving them right. But I have continued to wonder if I'm naive in thinking that, you know, I've been meaning to talk about the NSN and ANZAC Day and this increasing proximity of theirs to it for a long time, thinking it might help people to understand their positioning on it. Naive in thinking that perhaps you could do with a bit of education. And if you, and when I say you, I mean everyone out there in Australia, and that if everyone knew what I did, then they'd feel a bit differently about these people who really naively, I naively thought you're all supposed to have a starting point distaste for, neo-Nazis. But God knows, because these days it seems like they have quite an easy ride of coming off like everymen. Australia just keeps handing it to them on a silver platter, doesn't it? First of all, though, let me do that education. Let me explain what they were doing. They planned the stunt days in advance. They prepared, they scouted the location, they brought a crew. 2.5 hours the day before the dawn service, they were hanging out there. Ostensibly, when I say they, I mean Jacob Hersant, Blair Cottrell, Tom Sewell, and one of their partners, whose job it was to do footage for Jacob. They were ostensibly recording a video for Tom Sewell, but no doubt they would have been planning this stunt and scouting the location too. They did this in full view of the AFP, VicPol, and Shrine Management. So none of those people could say that they didn't know that there would have been something going on, given that these people were hanging about in full view of them around the World War II forecourt and the cenotaph for 2.5 hours. They did the stunt in 2 states at once to maximise the chances of receiving coverage. A bloke did this over in Western Australia as well. One of their members, Jamoan Roberts, went to court to get dispensation, or to attempt to apply for dispensation, bail, to not breach his bail conditions in order to attend the event with them. He said that it was, it's because this is a sacred holy day and yada, yada, yada. But no doubt it was obviously said that he could be there as an extra man to attend them for this stunt. When they went there, they all dispersed and they sat in different locations around the crowd to help to deter that notion, that because they'd already had some run-ins with Shrine Management, RSL and that kind of thing in the past. So I think they were trying to make it look less like they were there together as a group in order to ensure they'd have the highest chance of getting their stunt done. Now, crucially, they didn't just boo the welcome to country. They were also booing images of First Nations soldiers, as well as anything, whenever First Nations soldiers were mentioned. The point was, they were there to boo all the black stuff and to see what stuck. And of course what stuck was specifically the booing over welcomes to country, because that's what's been juicing the algorithm for much of the right wing in Australia post-voice referendum, for much of the past year certainly. So all of this is to say that they used the Dawn service to promote the neo-Nazi group. And specifically they did so to use it to try and get 1,500 signatures. They need to do lots of public promotion at the moment because they're about to register a political party that they want to call the White Australia Party. Now this is, speaking of education, another thing I want people to know is that the leader of the National Socialist Network, Tom Sewell, literally believes that we owe an ancestral blood debt. This is his words, not mine. An ancestral blood debt to the white race, if you will, and to Adolf Hitler, because our ANZAC ancestors, our white ANZAC ancestors, those white Australians that are amongst us, fought the Nazis or contributed to the fight against the Nazis in World War II. Despite that, these people are allowed to go and do their stunts of increasing public shocking value every year. At the ANZAC thing, they're allowed to stand outside with their flags and now, just crash and overtake the Dawn service itself. The funny thing about the position this puts me in is that I'm not exactly Mr. ANZAC over here, I can't hand-wring about the misuse of sacred ANZAC Day stuff because I don't appreciate ANZAC Day personally, and I've always made that very clear with my platform. And sometimes I've been a fucking smartass about my concerns about the day. Often nowadays I just speak my mind a bit more plainly and civilly. But the bottom line is, my politics aside, we don't need to go into it and my issues with ANZAC. I've done it plenty of times before. It's definitely not a day for me. And therefore, Dawn services definitely aren't an event for me. So, honestly, I personally wouldn't pop up and yard a veteran at 6 a.m. It seems an unnecessary battlefront to me. But yet here I am feeling like I'm having to communicate the real nature of the offence that comes with neo-Nazis doing this on Anzac Day, to an Anzac Day Dawn service. Like, don't you people get what they're doing to your sacred event? I mean, this RSL, Shrine Management, people who are into this kind of thing. Don't you get how they're using it? They think you need to pay back a debt to Hitler because your dead granddad fought him. And now they're gate-crashing your Dawn services to yell out any old racist shit that sticks. The first interruption at Melbourne Dawn services in 30 years, I'm told, just so they can recruit more angry little boys for their Nazi group. Is that fine with these people? Are people more offended by... Are people who are into Dawn services more offended by a welcome to country, a fucking act of saying the traditional name of the land that you're meeting up on, than all of that? Yeah, so this is the thing. They just booed all the black stuff because they were using the Dawn service to promote their Nazi group. And now every cunt in this country is dancing to the tune of welcomes to country, talking about them as though they're the issue for some reason. Who do I hate here more, I wonder? I keep asking myself this. Is it the pathetic media outlets that go, Oh, I can't call them Nazis. That's defamation. Oh, I can't say Nazi. That's defamation. I'll just talk about everything they said and air the whole footage. Is it the big tech social platforms for gamifying far-right talk so we get 6 months of ad nauseum welcome to country talk for money so that, fucking Ben Fordham or Avi Yemeni can eat steaks and then these parasites just copy it for attention? Or do I hate the diggers who are too scared of these fucking larpers to do anything about them? And you know what it is? It's tactical racism. It's astroturfed welcome to country hate. There's been plenty of more astute Indigenous voices than mine who've, God fucking damn it, they've had to sit there and defend these intuitively normal, beautiful, dignified ceremonies over the past few days. God knows they've done enough work, more than they should have to have done. I'm not going to repeat that work here, but I will say that it is tactical racism because it's paid for. Groups like Advance Australia, they are paying copious amounts of money and have been doing since the referendum because they saw a success there and they thought, well, we can use this to raise political capital for the upcoming election. That's why it's been welcome to country, this, that, the other, ever since then to now. There's a fairly vibrant or, intense dispute in anti-racist discourse about the term tactical racism, I must say. Some people go, and I understand this, they say, oh, well, you say it's just tactical or it's strategic for political ends, but it's real racism too. It really affects people, and there's no doubt that it affects my Indigenous brothers, sisters, comrades. Of course it does. But at the same time, it is strategic. All racism is based in power. All racism has been the tool wielded by elites in order to divide and conquer the fucking peasants, and to give some of them status over others, and to subjugate some people in order to subjugate all broke people. That's what racism is about. It's a matter of wielding power by dividing people. And there could be no doubt that this is tactically being deployed as a tool by groups like Advance Australia. We can see the money trail where they're just paying for these fucking ads on ad nauseum on Facebook to run this messaging. They've been doing it since the referendum, with the election in mind. It's groups like that. It's Peter Dutton. It's their tactical racism. The National Socialist Network, they only parasitised it in order to use it for recruitment purposes and to hopefully get enough signatures for their party. So my question is, whose tactical racism is it? Can we credit them for really... You know what the thing is about National Socialist Network members is that, oh yeah, all right, I'm sure they don't like sitting there as white supremacists and hearing anything Indigenous related. I'm sure they authentically don't. But these are the same people who hate... They think every single movie that's ever come out of Hollywood is a Jewish power conspiracy designed to cuck white men, make them have less kids, make them eat soy, make them be gay. This is what these people authentically think. They're fucking lunatics. They drink raw, unpasteurised milk and endanger themselves and their fucking babies doing it because they think that that's the healthy way to do things because all the Jewish people in control of the health industry always told them the opposite. They do the opposite's world for practically everything. They're dangerous idiots, and some of the biggest dangers that they pose is to themselves. They're fucking morons. They hate everything in this world. This isn't an authentic take of theirs. Of course they authentically believe in hate, but they're not the authentic pioneers of this. This is not the vanguard of their politics. The vanguard of their politics is open white supremacy and National Socialism. They only leapt upon this talking point because they already knew it had been popularised with the boomer right wing, who might be able to give them as many signatures as they're possible for their new political party if they do stunts that they all agree with. But the people who popularised the stunts were groups like Advance Australia. So again, I ask this, and in closing I ask the pod before I sign off, whose tactical racism really is this? And obviously the racism itself works. If by works you mean dividing people and hurting my Indigenous brothers, sisters, and comrades. And we fucking hate that here. We hate these maggots for that here. But, and you guys, pingers, Mitch, you people are a lot more electorally knowledgeable than me here. So I ask you all, tactically, if it's tactical racism, tactically, in the final week of the election, do you think it's working? Cheers, everyone.
Oof. Thanks, Tom, for leading us off on such a cheer. No, I don't want to diminish it. It shit's rough. Like, the shit from the dawn service on Anzac Day to now has been fucking rough. And to Tom's question there of it's like the tactical deployment of racism, which I think is definitely a thing. Racism is racism, but the way it can be deployed, it can be deliberate, it can be accidental, it can be whatever. When it comes to this type of deliberate tactical racism, Tom asking, like, how's it working out for all of those groups, from the National Socialist Network through to a group like ANZAC, through to the Liberal Party? My initial reaction, and this sort of talks to the Liberal Party's bigger view, so I would like your view on this, Pingers. I feel like internally in Australia and even sort of globally, there's been a pushback against Trumpism. And in Australia, the Liberal Party and a few other groups tied themselves to Trumpism and tried to launder Australian issues through that. And I don't think that's worked entirely well. We've seen polling everywhere. We're recording on the day of Canada's election, and the Liberal Party bounced back they bounced back in the polls right around the time of the Trump tariff announcement and wanting to invade Canada, annex fucking Canada. And so the Conservatives were like, we're kind of pro-Trump. Like, oh, no, we're not, fuck. And the Liberal Party have done that sort of here. I think we've talked about it before, that there's been a backlash against that idea. And it wasn't just Trumpism per se. It was the idea of forthright, bullish, right-wing popularism, but also like right-wing rhetoric and ideology. Less about the money, more about culture war shit. And so I feel like, in a sense, it hasn't worked all that well, despite the fact that they're getting news stories out of this shit, and they're fucking, they're getting, the NSM themselves are getting much more leverage out of this than we would want. ANZAC are using it. The voters don't seem overall to want it. But I get a sense that what the Liberal Party are doing now, especially off the back of this welcome to country shit, is they know that they're going to lose this election, and they're trying to firm up support in their base. They don't give a fuck about broad support now. They just don't want to be wiped out, and so they're appealing to the rightest of the right-wing dipshits to try and make sure that their base stays stable for the future elections coming up. So overall, no, disengaged people don't care, centrist people don't care, all the rest of that sort of stuff. But they want to make sure that the racists know where their home is, and they can all glom on to the Liberal Party. In the same way that, like, the Greens need to make sure they always have, environmental and social justice as their core plank. If they capitulate on that, they'll lose everything. We saw it with the Democrats. When the Democrats fought really hard on, like, no, we will never vote for a GST. Then they voted for the GST. The party fucking collapsed because the base went, well, fuck off. So if you don't have a base, you've got nothing. So I think this racism, this tactical racism, is working inside the right wing of this country to get all of those people on board and unified so they don't fracture, so the Liberal Party doesn't dissolve, so ANZAC still have a reason to exist. That's my vibe on things. I don't know, where do you sit?
I slightly disagree. I feel like like you mentioned, the Trump stuff being very unpopular, and the right, the various countries' rights, the right side of politics, they're conservatives, are looking bad because they're trying to mimic kind of Trump's stuff, and that looks really bad. But what we're seeing is the alleged left parties, in quotation marks, like our Labor Party, like Canada's Liberal Party, whatever the fucking red one is,
Not confusing at all.
Yeah, they're doing Trump, but a little bit more like they're doing nationalism. That's how they're combating Trump. Canada's Liberals have responded by like, yeah, this is what Trump's doing is bad. So we're gonna, throw out counter tariffs. We're gonna be like do massive campaigns about like buy Canadian made and whatever. Nationalism. That's what they're doing. That's what the left, in quotation marks, is doing. That's what Albanese's doing. Albanese's going a bit hard on the like, Australia made, future made in Australia, whatever, which is good for manufacturing and industry and whatever. But you can see like the timing of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can see Albanese lean into, maybe migration is a bit of a problem. That's what is causing a little bit of our housing crisis. So we've got to say fuck you to the migrants and stuff like that. It's not my fault.
But we've got to do it responsibly.
Exactly. We'll just do it a little bit more nicely than Trump's doing it, and a little bit more nicely than Dutton, which just opens the ground to what we're seeing. Like the fact that, the fucking alleged left parties aren't pushing back on any of this abject racism. To be fair to Albo, he did say, they should be punished. The Nazis should be punished or whatever. That means nothing. That's fucking nothing. That's just a little quote that he said.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the reasons why they exist. Are we going to talk about how they continue to perpetuate? No, we're just going to say, they should be punished for this instance. Yeah, exactly. That was a bad thing, unrelated to anything else that's ever happened.
Exactly. And so like ultimately what we're saying is we're responding to Trump's nationalism with nationalism, but just not as outward, because we're people can see that Trump's form of nationalism and imperialism is bad. So we're like, oh, that's bad. But then if the kind of left parties present nationalism in a nice
good way,
then people are loving it. And we can see it, like even what was it, Denmark put like fucking Greenland on their like coat of arms thing now, because they're like, oh yeah, Denmark's ours, fucking nationalism, whatever. That's what's happening. Like that's how we're responding to it. And we know like none of these parties are ever gonna, combat the far right. None of them are going to do anything to push against the rise of the far right, because it benefits them. That's what they're for. Like the Labour Party and the Liberal Party alike, they want that because it keeps them in power. And it just fucking like seeing like this election has been an absolute fucking shit show, but nothing has upset me more than seeing, the Nazis boo a welcome to country on Anzac Day. And like, you know what, this isn't exactly a popular opinion, but I don't like Anzac Day because we've turned it into a celebration of war rather than, remembering the thousands and millions of working class people who died because of those wars, and like, to never do that again. But we've turned it into a mad celebration. Gina Reinhardt using it to demand that we spend more in military funding, 5% of our GDP. Like,
fuck, what are you talking about? Defense funding for GDP when you're a fucking mining magnate? What are you? Shut up!
Like, it's just, but like that's what we've turned it into, and both parties have turned it into that. Both parties have made it like Anzac Day is a weapons expo, not maybe millions of working class people around the world shouldn't have died because of nationalism somewhere. Like that's what it is. So I don't like it. I don't like that we've turned it into, let's gamble and drink. Let's celebrate. But like still seeing a welcome to country being booed by Nazis has been like that really upset me. That was quite, and like that, like, Albo called me a disgrace this election. Me personally, that was like, whatever. This is the thing that upset me. That was fucking infuriating. Made me mad.
Just that also he didn't come out as strongly against them.
Yeah, literally. It's like, it's like that was his response to them. And it's like, me posting an address that was empty for 17 years. He's like fully been briefed, ready to come on ABC, call me a disgrace, call me like gratuitous behavior or like whatever the fuck he said. Can't remember. But yeah, this one's like, oh, Nazis are bad. Great.
Yeah, and like... And I mean, it matters when it comes from someone in his position because he could do something. This is the thing.
He absolutely can. Yeah.
Even if it's just a cultural thing, and this has been my point for fucking ages, is that our leaders since the 80s, since the neoliberal term, are not leaders. They are just leaders in name alone.
Yes.
They're middle managers for big business. That's all they are. They fiddle around the fucking edges. Albo does not want to lead. Albo doesn't want to start a conversation. He doesn't want to convince people to come with him on a journey. He doesn't have a vision for Australia. He wants everything to stay exactly as it is on election night and nothing to happen, nothing to burst his bubble. And dealing with the rise of white nationalism in his own country would require stepping on toes. Because we remember, like, it was Dutton, wasn't it, who got the ASIO to get rid of mentions of specifically right-wing terrorism and just call it political terrorism. And or include left-wing with right-wing. And then ASIO were like, hey, right-wing terrorism vastly outnumbers left-wing terrorism in every single facet. And he's like, don't care. We've got to include both sides. So if he was to try and do anything meaningful on this, which would be addressing the politics of the Liberal Party and even the National Party, addressing Sky News, addressing the ads of Advance and whatnot, that would require being honest. And what these people have done, again, with the tactical deployment of racism, is also built up this really quite thin, plausible deniability. Tom mentioned as well how the journalists don't want to mention that they're neo-Nazis because we're worried about the defo laws about neo-Nazis. They're proudly neo-Nazis. What are you talking about? Some of them have swastika tattoos. They're sig-hailing. Like, what do you mean you're not going to talk about it like that? They don't want to confront that shit because this thin veneer of plausible deniability will very rightly bring in establishment figures and systems that we don't want to address in this fucking country because that upsets capital again. And so, yeah, I mean, I do take your point. I do like your point that the world has reacted to Trumpism. And I think especially because of, the work that people like Barack Obama have done, where they've reduced politics to aesthetics. And so they don't like Trump aesthetics. They don't like a blustering, bloviating man saying they'll bomb Yemeni weddings. They like a charismatic, smooth-talking, respectable, smart man bombing Yemeni weddings and then going, maybe we did, maybe we didn't. So the reaction against Trump has been in some quarters a whole lot of, oh, well, let's just do proper nationalism. Fuck that Trump nationalism.
Yeah, let's just do it neater.
Let's pivot, though, to the election itself. I'm weirdly hopeful this time around. And look, more fool me once we actually see the election results. But I just have a nice feeling, especially off of the back of the Canadian election. I don't know if you've seen, it hasn't been called at the time of recording.
No, but we know what the answer is, yeah.
Well, the leader of the Conservative Party might lose his seat.
Fuck yeah.
And after seeing the polling on Dutton and his seat as well, I'm very hopeful about that. But I want to share a story that is informing my optimism. Maybe I'm too close to it. Maybe it's anecdotal. But I feel like this is fitting into the zeitgeist at the moment. But my dad is in Dutton's seat and he's voted for him forever. And actually, last time I was at my dad's, I noticed that he has one of those like promotional fridge magnet things, but it's from fucking like 15 or so years ago. And it's got like handy tips for energy saving for like appliances that don't exist anymore. Or like dial up internet shit. But so like so my dad is like, he's loved Dutton forever because Dutton once helped him with some veterans stuff. My dad's a Vietnam vet. And so he's been voting for Dutton all the fucking time. Really likes him. He's a go-getter, blah, blah, blah. And I do my fun little videos online talking about politicians. I've had a chat with my dad a while ago about the future that me and my very young brother are facing at the moment because of people like Dutton. And so my dad called me a few days ago, really excited about like this last video I posted in that tipped him over the edge to put Dutton last.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Dude, and and so we had this conversation a little while ago where he heard about Max Chandler Mather on 3AW. 3AW were trying to say, they were trying to go, oh, he's a bit shit. Oh, I don't like his tone. And it was Max Chandler Mather yelling in Parliament. And Dad was like, listen to him go. Oh, politicians, because he remembers Hawke and Keating, right? And so I had a chat with him then about like, look, the Greens are a party that are actually offering like meaningful sort of change. And the two big parties don't give a fuck about us. And that was maybe a year ago. And it seemingly has sort of churned away in the back of his mind. But yeah, dude, he fucking called me up and was like, these major parties don't give a fuck about anyone but themselves. They do not care about you. They do not care about your brother. They don't care about me, but I'm on the way out. So I'm going to put Dutton last because fuck him. And I'm giving some other people a go. I want to shake it up. I'm done with the major parties. And like, for my dad, who is, again, like a staunch Dutton voter, to feel the winds change like that and to be enthusiastic about changing the political system for his sons was really affecting. It was really impactful. And I don't know, I just have this hope that like, let's keep going with the lowest primary vote for the majors ever. Let's get a bunch of fucking weird small parties and independents in there to be, at the very least, fucking representative.
Yeah, I think that's wholly a fucking great thing. This is fantastic, but also there's a massive risk, and that is, you know, the rise of non-major parties who aren't great, who are worse, like fucking Pauline Hanson's One Nation, that is polling fucking fantastically at the moment.
Wild, hey?
Yeah, and like, you know, the growth of like look at all the parties that are listed on, you know, the various polls. They're every single one. There's like Greens, obviously, as left as it goes, which is, you know, we've had this chat before, like they're just nicer capitalists. And then look how far to the right it just keeps reaching and reaching and reaching. Like they're listing the Libertarians now, they're listing Pauline Hanson's One Nation, they're listing fucking Trumpets of Patriots. And it's just, that right keeps going, and they're going to do okay. They're going to get some of the vote because people are disaffected with the major parties, and there's no one on the left giving a message that's like, hey, that same disillusionment you feel, it's not the fault of migrants. It's the fault of the fucking rich who control our lives and control everyone in Parliament and do all that kind of stuff. They're the problem. But we aren't pushing that message out very effectively.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a risk.
I think we're not pushing it out as effectively as the others, and this is something Tom touched on just before, is because of the fucking mass amounts of money behind those right-wing messages. Like fucking Clive Palmer. Like he's just doing it himself. He's at least he has the spine to do it himself, as opposed to like Advance and the shadowy organizations that funnel money into one business, into another, then put it through. But yeah, there's so much money on that side that it's so hard to like make a counter narrative, which like obviously we do. Yeah,
and but it's not like we don't have money. Like the Greens got $10 million in election funding at the last federal election. Like the Greens have enough money to put a counter narrative out, but the counter narrative is soft. The Greens never mention the rise of the far right, the rise of Nazis specifically. Like there's a counter narrative to be put here, and we've got money.
They do
not
mention,
really.
Not in a hard sense, but again, I think it's that difference between, you know, $10 million only go so far with the things you've got, and if you're getting into electoralism, you're making the cost benefit analysis of like what's the line that will win us, and it's like that's where it gets gross.
Yeah, and that's what's happening because they also want some of those votes.
Exactly,
you know what I mean? That's why Albo's not going hard on it. That's why Albo's only saying going to one press conference and saying like, oh, the booing is bad, because he wants their votes too. Like, yeah, we're not pushing that counter narrative. We can. We've got money. Some of us have money. Yeah.
But this is what's insane too. I was helping someone have a look at their seat. They're in Griffith in Queensland. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, that's Max Chandler Mather's seat. Okay, great. And then I looked up like their lower house candidates, and you were just mentioning like the left versus the right and how tilted it is. They've got it's Greens,
the
Labour
far
Party,
left it goes is Greens.
It's Greens, Labour Party, Liberal National Party, One Nation, Trumpet of Patriots, Family First, People First. Like what the options there are insane.
Yeah, those are all right parties.
It's the only thing I was going to say though, when you were talking about like the rise of the parties that are like worse than like micro racist parties, One Nation and whatnot. My only thinking with why it's still better is that we currently have a pretty fucked party in the Liberals and a pretty fucked party in Labor. And they're in lockstep on a lot of the things, but they also act with impunity because of how big they are. But if we had a situation where Labor and Liberal
where they're being held to account by fucking one nation, I don't know if that's a good thing.
But no, I'm saying if those two parties didn't exist and all we had were the micro parties, there would be an ability to have a parliament that would hold each other to account. At the moment, if Labor wants to do something with the Liberal Party and they're in lockstep with each other, it just goes through.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. So if we take away that party and we take away that power and we have a representative amount of people from all these different micro parties, they have to work together. They have to compromise somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So if we at least had that, then the work on the ground that can be done to undo the influence of those parties, I think would be much easier because like you always say, we have the better ideas. We have better ideas that are closer aligned to reality. Yeah. And I think once we break the monopoly hold of these two major parties, it will be easier for people to go, oh, hang on. It's not the case that what the Labor Party have identified as the source of my problem is what the Labor Party says it is. It's the big business problems. And I know that now because I can see how Parliament works when it isn't just basically a fucking rubber stamp factory amongst these two big parties.
See, I also slightly disagree because we had an example of that. We had a case study where the Greens held the balance of power and had a supply arrangement and a power sharing arrangement during the Gillard years. And we saw an incredible thing get through, dental into Medicare for children. But then we also saw that power sharing arrangement allow the passage of objectively shit bills that the Greens would have opposed were they not in a power sharing arrangement, just get passed through because it was like, oh, thanks for letting us have some of that power to hold you to account and then just not hold them to account. And like we
also had the carbon tax.
Yeah, couple of good bills.
We had a lot of good stuff go through.
Absolutely. But also even more objectively shit things that were just given.
Yeah, Gillard annexed to the mainland.
Yeah, just given passage, like given free, like left cover, literally left cover for shit bills. And then like, you know, one of the conditions was like, the Medicare stuff, but also, you know, like we have like leaders debates now have to include a Greens leader, and then that didn't even happen. So like fucking no, I don't know that letting like power sharing arrangements do hold, you know, the major parties to account. I don't think that's true. I think it just lets them keep going. It gives them cover to keep doing whatever they're doing because that's what happened last time.
But they did change. Like the Gillard government was arguably undone because they passed for them and for the electorate, they passed things that were quote unquote too progressive. And I know your distinction there, so I won't say leftist. And they didn't do the work on the ground to make sure that the Liberal Party couldn't undermine it. And so when they tried to...
I don't think that's what brought them undone. I don't think it's what brought them...
What do you reckon did it?
It was, they did shit. They did shit. Like, they didn't pass good laws. People didn't like the government. And yeah, also, obviously, there was no movement building outside of Parliament, but there's never been that. That's not a new thing. Yeah. That's always been the case. So yeah, I just don't, like, I don't think, you know, the single mothers who were cut off from welfare payments by Gillard and the Greens were like, oh, I'm going to vote for these guys again. I just reckon that's what did it. They did a shit job and they weren't held to account.
But how do you hold them to account then if you're not going to vote people in? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean if it's not a power sharing arrangement? That's what our parliament is. It's only ever going to be power sharing.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about only in Parliament, only power sharing. And I'm arguing that that's not going to help. That's just not going to do anything because we did see that. We saw that before and we saw that come undone. And we also saw a lot of shit stuff get through. So that's not the answer is what I'm saying.
Oh, so like Parliament and politics in general is not the answer.
Also that, but also like the current crop of parties that exists are not the answer.
But so...
And the rise of more far-right parties is obviously going to make that worse because if by that logic, like, you know, they're going to be held to account by further right interests to us.
But so do you mean then like what it needs to be is a because you're saying power arrangement doesn't work. So Vic Socialists get 14 seats this election and they hold balance of power. Is that good?
We wouldn't enter into a power sharing arrangement. There's no way we would.
So you would allow supply though?
No, like I don't think so. I don't think we would.
So then what happens to the government?
Well, fuck the government. We don't care about the government.
So
it's not exactly a very revolutionary socialist perspective to enter into a supply arrangement that passes capitalist bills.
So it's back to the polls until we get a Vic Socialist majority or another government or another set of parties in majority.
Or a revolution.
Fuck, it would be really good to like we kick off the revolution because people are sick. They're sick of their 5th election in a year, and they're like, "We're fucking done with this. It's communism
Let's
time.
give it a go.
We're fucking sick of voting."
Or force them to enter into a supply arrangement with the party that is more like them, i.e., the fucking Liberals, because we know that in reality that's what's going to happen. Like if there was a choice between Labor almost having the balance of power and needing to enter into a relationship with the Greens or Victorian Socialists, they'd first go for the Greens because they have in the past, or they go for a couple of Nats, like a couple of Nationals, or they go for a couple of Liberals or a couple of Teals. That's what they do because that's where they're closer aligned.
I have thought about this because I disagree with you about what brought Gillard's government undone. It was a shit government. Mm-hmm. But what the Greens did while they were there was the best shit that the government has managed to do the whole time. Again, dental for children to Medicare, climate change work. What they got through that was on the Greens' terms was good. What the Greens let through was shit.
Was a shit. Yeah, objectively shit. Absolutely, yeah.
But they're electorate. That's what they're there for, is to be in power in the current system that we've got. They're not revolutionaries, right?
Yeah, but also look how much legislation they let through that was shit. Like that was one of the.
It was a record amount of legislation, and it's a Labor government, so it's going to be shit.
And most of it was shit, yeah. And
I disagree with that. It wasn't. No, most of it.
Absolutely.
No, okay. If you go 50% plus one is most, then yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But the amount of reform that they got through that was good was so much better than when Rudd was in power. 100%.
Yeah, but like still, they just gave left cover to shit legislation.
I don't think they gave left cover to shit legislation.
They did. Well, they're doing it now. They're like that's the whole advertising thing at the moment. Is like, yeah, look how much bills we got through. It's like, don't look at all the shit ones, but look how much we did. Some of it was good too.
Because that's appealing to people who don't like the idea of like, if we get enough power, we're not going to form government. We're going to burn the whole thing down. Most people will go, well, I don't want to vote for that. I want to vote for stability that is incrementally better than the Liberal Party.
Yeah, which is totally fair. That's where people are at. I get that. Yeah. But also, like, that's where the Greens are at and will be at. And that's not good enough for me.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. But when they say, look at the legislation, that's to go, because the narrative from the Liberal Party is it's going to be chaos if it's minority. And it's like, it's not. Our system is set up for minority governments. It's set up for power sharing arrangements. Also, you're in the fucking coalition.
Yeah,
you are the coalition. Shut the fuck up about the chaos thing. But to get back to it, the one thing I have been wondering about, and this is I do wonder if this election, next election, or the one after, if like Labor and Liberal will form some sort of like sensible center party where they just sort of go like, we have to form government ourselves because neither of us have but we cannot risk the great, because like what happened in France.
Well, they practically do that already.
They do that, but they don't do it aesthetically. And so this is the thing everyone knows it's red versus blue. And that's the thing. It's like, it comes down to red versus blue. And oh my God. I'm like, what if it's red and blue together? And
which it is now.
I'm so keen. Oh yeah, but I'm talking about the aesthetics, dude. I'm talking about the fact that it absolutely isn't in the minds of most voters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what happens if they go, yeah, mask off, we're fucking working together. We are the major party now. And it turns out we got 60% of the votes. Fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Like, what would it take? How bad do you think it would like take for them to just join up? I don't think much, to be honest. I honestly think it could happen.
I don't think much at all. I think if you look to, if you look to particularly the Nationals that they're in a coalition with, the Nationals are far more aligned with the Labor Party, particularly the Labor Party today, even though some of the Nationals are actually way more like radical in terms of like wanting to nationalize Rex and nationalize Qantas and like nationalize a bunch of things. But obviously that's because they're fucking nationalists.
We want to nationalize stuff. Not like that. Oh, no. Oh, fuck.
Exactly. So it's like, I reckon there's a much closer alignment. Like, you know, they're fucking liberals in nature, the Labor Party, and some of the left policies of Labor that they'd never fucking do, the Nationals already want to do, and they'd give right cover for Labor to pass these left things through. So like, it's not that out of the question. Also, the Liberals and the Nationals fucking hate each other. So like, there's an absolute, like, they compete in the same electorates against each other. Like, it makes sense.
Do you reckon then what's more likely for you, Labor National or Labor Liberal?
Labor National first. Like, because it is already Labor. Like, look how they vote. They're fucking anything defense related, anything like about almost anything. They just vote together. There's a few exceptions, mainly around housing, that they don't vote together on. And like even welfare today, they vote together on. And like, maybe just even Medicare, even fucking Medicare. They'd be like, both of them are proposing the same fucking thing. So it's like, policy-wise, what's the difference? Like, oh, maybe one of you wants a shitty half and the other one wants a shitty fucking super for housing. Like, great.
Yeah. No, I feel like there is this thing where the Nationals do genuinely seem more in tune with their electorates, just so far as like they understand the age demographics, they understand the pensioners, and again, it comes down to the aesthetics again, you know. But like Medicare as a thing is like something that is loved by people across this country, especially older people who rely on it more. So all the National Party needs to do is, again, like you said, wrap it in nationalism as opposed to cost saving. Because that's the thing as well. If you get into, it's actually more cost effective to have Medicare do blah blah blah, then you're getting into a needless debate that means nothing with the Liberal Party about, you know, surplus and deficit and spending and costs. It's like, that's not real though. You make that shit up. You can fund it. That's not in question. Welfare isn't in question at all.
Yeah.
But so why are you opening yourself up to be in this weird dick measuring contest with who's the better economic manager while people suffer? The Nationals just go at least, how can we get some votes out of this? We can give you some money? Sick. Great. Let's pork barrel the shit out of it. Give welfare to who we need to.
Yeah, like, get some money for my electorate.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck, a Labor Nat coalition. This is the thing as well, like finding out that Bob Katter was like, at least, again, aesthetically, a staunch unionist, very pro CFMEU. It's like, I bet you used to be. I bet in a different day and age, I bet before neoliberalism, you 100% were. And things go different when you're in Parliament for too long.
Yeah, and get in power and whatever. Like, become rich too. Like, a fucking $250,000 salary after 10 years. Well, that'd change you, wouldn't it?
I do like the idea that you turn into like a socialist left Bob Katter type figure. Still giving away all of your money, but like due to inflation, you end up giving away like a nominal amount of $20 every year, just due to inflation. Still on well below what you should be, but just turning into like a crazed lunatic figure on our holographic social media in 50 years.
I don't know how much reading you've done about former socialist parliamentarians, particularly in Australia, but that's what they were. Like they went in, they were like, I'm here to represent one class and one class only. And then shouted at the fucking cunts on the other side, called them rats, cowards, traitors, blah, 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 blah. That's what they spent most of their time doing. And also using their offices and their parliamentary incomes to build strikes, build working class power, build that kind of stuff. That is what they did. They did Bob Katter, if Bob Katter was actually interested in building a movement and calling people out who deserve to be called out. This election campaign has just been so boring. Like, they're all just like do something. Like, this is all so pathetic.
I will say that I stand by my proclamation a few weeks ago that I wanted any of the parties to talk about anything other than Dutton, right? Because it's so lackluster and it's so boring, and it's just, we've got no ideas except let's do the I'm not ScoMo playbook and just go I'm not Dutton. And I will say, I won't say I was wrong per se, but it worked for them. And that's cool. Okay, fine. But I wasn't saying do something more effective. I was saying give me fucking hope. Do something that gets me in any way excited or genuinely hopeful, feeling good about the future. And they won't fucking do it. It's just, middle managers for big business. Let's fucking fiddle around the edges. And what does that mean for a campaign election? It means the most boring, milquetoast, nothing campaigns from either party, and yet somehow Dutton is still fucking it up. I will say, talking about Dutton sucking at this is so much fun.
I mean, like, that is always going to be great. That is fucking fantastic.
Loser. He sucks so bad, dude.
Exactly. Like, and that's just going to be fun to, like, this will be potentially Australia's first bald prime minister. Fuck that. Also, like, on that point, like, the whole, like something else other than, fuck Peter Dutton. The one party that is, a major minor party, the Greens, that are like, actually have a positive message to send, also leaned into that. I've seen all the billboards. It's like, keep Dutton out, force Labor to act, vote Greens. It's like, fucking, come on. Come on. And then also, like, fucking vote Greens for a free Palestine. Are you fucking serious? That's not how that works. Like, come on. But at least even that's better than the fucking, like, keep Dutton out. Like, fuck off.
Yeah. No, I just that idea of, like, keep Dutton out, get Labor to act.
Yeah.
Okay, on what?
Yeah, like, give me the thing that I want.
Yeah. I want.
Like, you've got some great things for us. Fucking, that'd be great. Let's lean into that.
I want, like, again, I want to be enthusiastic about something. And everything that organizing outside of election campaigns is the clearest example of this. And I will say, like, I know that there are Greens candidates and there are probably fucking even Labor candidates who are still fucking lost in the sauce, who are thinking this, where they're just like, if we take this soft approach, we might get a few votes. But the big swing...
They know that is true.
But the thing is, it's a bigger risk to take a bigger swing, but fuck me, it pays off if you do it right. That's the big thing. So back yourself.
Risk? Is it a bigger risk? I don't think it's a bigger risk. Like, people are so upset with the current political climate. They're looking for anything that's different. So if a party did something that was different, they'd be like, oh, maybe they won't be like this the next time.
It's less about people want something different. Absolutely. But if you fuck up that messaging, which, Labor, fucking perennial ball droppers, there is not a good idea Labor won't fuck up somehow, right?
That's true, yeah.
So if they get the messaging on that wrong, or they come up with the wrong ideas on that, then the risk is, we fuck it up and we squander the moment, right? I think it is less of a risk to just go, oh no, I'm just gonna, thank you, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's just like, because if you don't win, then you just go, well, I guess they wanted the other, nothing we could have done. They wanted the other party. It wasn't on us.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go boldly and you go right into it, and the thing is as well, I don't think you can fuck it up if you're authentic about it. But the Labor Party, every Labor member stands for nothing. They just want a career in politics. They don't actually believe in shit. So they can't come out there forthrightly for things anymore. So they can't authentically put forward a big tent message that will grab Australia and usher us into a new age with a sterling vision for because they don't have one. They don't care about anything. So, like, yeah, and also, I don't think they're in touch with people. I think...
No, absolutely not.
At the higher levels, I genuinely believe that people like fucking Albo and Penny Wong and Peter Dutton and Angus Taylor, they are all still thinking like, well, people like us overall.
Yeah, everyone loves us. Yeah, we don't have to go campaign in Werribee. Fucking, that's a safe seat. Like, who the fuck cares about those people if you're the Labor Party? Like, and look what happened, cunts.
I've got so many coughs to edit out. This is fun. If you want to send us an email, alpdotgov@proton.me. After the election, we'll start reading them out, I reckon. Also, once people are not moving, once they're back from a different hemisphere on holidays, once they're not campaigning for the Senate, once they're not doing whatever I'm doing.
Once they're not in Queensland with shit internet.
But no, shoot us some emails. I've got some really fucking cool emails coming through. We put a call out a little while ago for the controversial leftist opinions, and we've got some cool ones. I'm keen to start to do an episode on that. But
yeah, that'll be great.
Send them through, and we will have a chat again after the election, I guess. Holy shit.
Fucking finally.